Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you're new here, I'm Elton, a 50-something-year-old undertaking a long-term photography project in my 1996 Heimer. So you can expect to see travel photography and video from historical sites that I visit, landscape and nature photography, wildlife and animal photography from around my travels, and also video tutorials, camera gear reviews, and hints and tips of van life and long-term travel. So please do join me and hit that subscribe button. Hey guys, Elton here. So in this video I'm going to provide 10 facts and interesting points perhaps about copyright and photography law as it pertains to the UK. So that's very important. This is UK law, so it's obviously could be different in the States, wherever you may be in the world. So just bear that in mind. Obviously always check the laws within the country you're operating in. So the first one, in the UK, copyright automatically belongs to the person who took the image, regardless of the equipment that they're using. So what that means is, if, for example, you're in London standing in front of Big Ben and you hand your phone to someone to take a photo of you standing in front of Big Ben, they actually own that photograph. It is their copyright, which a lot of people find very peculiar because, you know, they're using your phone, it's you in the image, etc. However, the way the law works is that that photo actually belongs to the person who took the photo. Same as if you give someone your camera, whatever the kit may be. So that is point number one. Whoever creates the art owns the art. So bear that in mind next time you're traveling around somewhere and you ask someone to take your photo. Number two, taking photos in a public space is perfectly permissible in the UK. So if you're in a park, if you're on the high street, if anywhere that's considered to be a public space that the public can access, you are legally permitted to take photographs of anyone or anything that you see in those environments. So even if you're walking down the sidewalk, for example, and there's houses or business premises, etc., you can take photos of those premises. Now, obviously morally it's down to you. I personally don't take photos of children, for example. If I see a family or a mother and child or a father and child, I might go up to them and ask them if it's okay to take photos of them. But typically I kind of stay away from children and taking photos of children. And that's just my personal morals. As a parent myself, I wouldn't necessarily appreciate someone taking photos of my kids out in a public environment. Number three is, as I said, taking photos of private property from a public place is permissible, but taking pictures of people or objects inside the property is not. I.e., you can't shoot through someone's bed window, whether that's the living room window or bedroom window or any kind of window, where you can then see the person inside their property. That is then an invasion of privacy, and you can be fined or jailed for that. So be wary of that. If you're going to take a photo of a premise, residential premises, that you can't see anybody through those windows. Number four, it is illegal to take photographs of military bases, airports and other sensitive locations in the UK without permission. So obviously if you're a commercial photographer and you're being commissioned to take photographs of any of these places, military bases, airports, etc., you want to cover yourself as much as possible and get an agreement in place where you have specific permission to take photographs within those areas. Do not get caught taking photographs of these restricted areas and buildings, etc. Because you will find yourself in a big pile of poop. Number 5, commercial use of photographs of identifiable people requires a model release form, signed model release form. So in all the photo shoots that I do, whether that's with my clients or I'm working with the model on what they call a time for print basis, where there's no financial gain for either party. The model provides their time, I provide my time, the model gets some images in exchange for modeling. So whether it's that time for print situation or it's a paying client, I always get a signed model release. That just protects me. It makes sure the customer understands, or the model understands what I may use those photographs for, i.e. putting them in my portfolio, posting them on social media to kind of promote my work, that kind of stuff. So be very careful of that. You cannot sell or commercially benefit from any image that contains a subject, that identifiable subject, that you have not got a signed model release form for. So, some people, some photographers put images up on stock sites like Getty Images, etc., etc. Those images cannot be used for commercial purposes if you do not have a signed model release form. So be very, 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 very careful about that. Street photography, number 6. So street photographers in the UK are generally allowed to take photos of people in public spaces without their permission, as long as they are not using the images for commercial purposes. So this is important, but mainly for the general public, because it's mainly the general public who don't quite understand this law. And I've seen personally several instances, and I've heard and seen chats on Facebook for photography groups of photographers being harassed, some of them physically, by people in the street when they've seen that there's a photographer taking photos of them. So if you are a member of the public and you physically assault a photographer who's taking photos in a public space, you are in the wrong, I'm afraid. Immediately in the wrong, and you could be fined, you could be sued by the photographer. So please understand this. If you are in a public space, you are obviously in an environment where anybody can see you, witness you, etc., and that extends to people taking photographs of you. So just think, when you're in a tourist attraction environment, standing outside or below the Eiffel Tower, for example, and you take that photograph of you standing with the Eiffel Tower behind you, how many people in the background have you captured? Same thing with Big Ben, same thing with any tourist attraction where you've got crowds of people. You've not gone and asked all those people for their permission to be in that photograph. So again, just be wary of that. If you are in a public place and you see a photographer taking your photograph, don't get violent. Go and have a chat with them by all means and see what they're taking your photograph for, etc. Again, personally for me, I will typically go and speak to somebody. If I see someone who has got a great or unique look about them, I will go and ask them if they mind me taking their photograph, and even perhaps kind of direct them into some posing and that kind of stuff. And other times I might see something that I want to be candid. So I will take the photo first and then go and speak to the person or the subjects that I've taken the photograph of and say, look, this is who I am. I've taken your photograph. Here's my website. Get in touch if you would like a copy of it. So I generally go about it that way in those two circumstances, as I say. So if I see someone I would like to, like the look of, I'll go and speak to them, see if they mind modeling for me. Other times it might be that it's a candid moment that I want to capture, and then I'll go and speak to them. But the main thing here is just be aware that street photographers are perfectly in their right to take photographs of you if you're in a public space. Number 7, Photographers are not allowed to use flash photography in certain events or environments, such as religious ceremonies, concerts, etc., without permission. And this applies to several scenarios. So a lot of churches or abbeys, cathedrals, etc., you can't use flash photography in there, especially so if there is artwork in those buildings. Similarly, many museums will not let you use flash photography. So again, just be wary, look out for the no flash photography signs, etc., and just abide by them. If you know you're going into a low light situation where you can't use flash, make sure you've got a lens that's capable of low light shooting with a low f-stop. So the lowest I have, or the biggest I have, is one f1.8, 50mm prime lens that I use or take with me when I know that I'm going to go into an environment where they're likely not to allow flash photography. I typically steer away from using flash photography as much as I can anyway, to be honest, when I'm out and about. Number 8, photographs taken in a public place can be used for editorial or news purposes without the permission of the subject. So again, if I happen to be somewhere and something happens, I don't know, King Charles walks by and I take the photograph and you happen to be in the photograph, I can send that to a newspaper or online news agency and they can use that photograph without your permission because it's being used for news or editorial purposes. Same thing if there's an accident or there's an event of some sort, a well washes up on the beach, anything like that could be seen as a newsworthy or editorial worthy picture. Your permission is not required to be published in those editorials. Number 9, it is illegal to publish a photograph that infringes on someone's privacy, such as a photo of someone in a compromising position or a photograph taken through a window. So I mentioned this previously, but as much as you can take a picture of a house from, if you're standing on public land, public space, you cannot zoom through that window or take a picture of someone standing on the other side within their property at that window, because that is then an invasion of privacy. It is a violation of GDPR rules. So be very, very, very careful, as I say, about people in private property locations. This includes people inside museums. Despite it being a public area, it's a privately owned location and building. Similarly, if you're shooting in a house or in a property, like, I don't know, in a state house or something like that, and you want to use those for commercial purposes, then you will need what's called a property release form, similar to a model release form, but it's for the properties, and that you've got permission from the property owner to sell those images for commercial gain. And then number 10, photographers are not allowed to harass or intimidate their subjects when taking photographs in a public place and can be held liable for any damage caused. So, I mean, I've seen some of these videos on YouTube and social media of photographers and drone pilots going and getting into ridiculous arguments with staff and things because they're flying the drone over the factory or the building, etc. In some instances, they are standing up for their rights. The law states they can do that. There's not a problem. They have drones which are below 250 grams, but I'll go into drone. I'll make a separate drone video. But in other instances, it's almost like they are specifically targeting these businesses to get a reaction. And the encounters are, in some instances, as I say, in my view, definitely harassment. So you can't go out there and just be up in someone's face with your camera and that kind of thing, because that would be classed as harassment, and you can find yourself in a bit of a legal issue there. So yeah, there we go. 10 facts about copyright and UK law. Just also to mention it around copyright, so many people are just not aware or don't give a crap. about copyright, and they believe, and I've actually seen several people make this comment, that if it's posted on the internet, you can use it. Not true, folks. You cannot, just because a photographer or you take a picture, you post it on Facebook, you post it wherever, you own the copyright to that image, and I cannot come along, download that image and just post it or share it as my own. I've got to, if I do that, I've got to give you credit, and ideally I want to get your permission to do that first. So don't think you can just simply go into Google, type in cute picture of a cat, and then just go and put a memo, some text over it to create your mem, because that is copyright infringement. You have taken an image that is not yours and amended it. So be very wary of this, guys. I know there's a lot with the increase in AI these days. There's now several sites out there that photographers will use that will scour the internet for their images and variations of their images, and then alert the photographer to those instances. The photographer can then go and see where these images exist on the web, and if it happens to be an infringement of their copyright, they can instruct that company, that website, to instigate legal procedures. The first instance being cease and desist, so take the image down. If they don't, then they will take it further. And these companies take typically between 30 to 50% of any court claim fee. So be wary, people, because photographers are making use of these websites more regularly now, because they are simply sick and tired of people just downloading the images and reusing them to create all kinds of things on the internet. Right. So I hope that's been useful. Do comment below. Let me know if you've got any questions about copyright or law in the UK with regards to photography. And until next time, as always, hang on again. I always do this, don't I? Please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. It doesn't cost you anything, and your support really does mean the world to me. Thank you. So until next time, be happy, be safe, and be kind. Cheers.